Christopher, you have 5 minutes.
5 minutes on 5 minutes on the goodness of God. Okay, never one to refuse a challenge. I don't really know what it's like being a Christian, but it seems to me that if I was one, there are reasons I would want to object to the Dembski view. First, I think this attempt to prove the existence of God by what we would normally call something like scientific evidence, which is a restless need that the religious have, I think partly because we keep taunting them with not ever coming up with enough conclusive evidence, so they keep coming up with more. I mean, after all, the Big Bang was actually originally thought of by a Catholic priest in holy orders at the University of Louvain in Belgium, and he took it to the Pope, Pope Leo, I think it was, who said, well, if you like, I'll make it official dogma. I'll say that Christians have to believe it. And the professor said, well, no, Your Holiness, that's not quite what I mean. But very often when, not in this case, but when something marvelous and various and awe-inspiring, like the theory of evolution or the theory of the Big Bang, is finally accepted by most, if not all people, Christians simply say, well, that just proves God is even more ingenious than we thought. He must be responsible for all that too. Please always beware of an argument that appears to explain everything. It's very likely to explain nothing. But there's another reason why I think I would be a little uneasy at arguments of this kind that try and wrench evidence into theological shape. This is my question for you to ponder, where's the need for faith in that case? If it can be proved in the same way as a proposition of mine has to be proved or has to fall, what need for faith? What need for the suffering, the struggle to achieve faith and maintain it? There'd be no need for faith if there really was evidence, would there? I'd love to know how you bridge this gap. Perhaps someone in the question period will supply me with a thought there. And then another reason why I would steer very clear of this idea of making God responsible, not just for our existence, but for our behavior and for what happens to us, is it dooms you to have to keep on pestering him with plaintive questions that don't have an answer. I found a complete point of agreement with Dr. Dembski. It's absolutely true. If I was a Christian, I would not think that God owed me an explanation. There'd be something disproportionate, surely, about that, something conceited. But people do find themselves asking, if there's a God and if he's good, where is all this evil from? This is a strictly time-wasting question. Things like war and pestilence come because we are not very highly evolved animals who live on a rather climatically unstable planet and don't know very much yet about our circumstances. The way that we behave to each other is recognizable from the way that other animals behave to each other, unfortunately. But we have one very clear idea, and it's fortunately one that it's almost impossible for us to get rid of, that if we don't act responsibly to one another, whether for altruistic reasons or not, the motives don't necessarily have to be pure. But if we didn't have a social dimension, a bonding one, we wouldn't survive. We'd have gone by now. We wouldn't have made it out of Africa. The question, in a sense, answers itself. Now, you can call this morality if you want, and there certainly are some individuals who act in what appears to us to be a self-sacrificing way. And they've always got tremendous honor in all tribes, in all societies, and at all times. But it's only really necessary to recognize that we have a kinship and a solidarity, and that without it we're gone. Morality cannot be dictated to us. It doesn't come in tablet form that can be swallowed. It comes from the Socratic method of moral suasion, long reflection. Why should this be called wrong? Why would this be a dishonor? Otherwise, why do the Ten Commandments say nothing about slavery, nothing about genocide, nothing about child abuse, nothing about innumerable other things that preoccupy us and make us think, of which we think us evil, and about 4 instructions on how to worship a very jealous, capricious, and ill-tempered God? How come? If you based your morality on these tablets, you'd be missing an enormous amount of what we think of as morally urgent. Now again, I happen to be a secular humanist. I have politics of my own, fairly accurately described by Dr. Dembski. That doesn't go to the question of whether there's a God or not. You can be a supporter of Ayn Rand. I'm sure some of you have read The Fountainhead or The Virtue of Selfishness, one of her best essays actually, though I don't agree with it, or Atlas Shrugged. Had complete contempt for religion, but politics completely different from me. You can be an atheist and a sadist. You can be an atheist and a fascist. Most fascists actually were Roman Catholics. Doesn't matter. You can be an atheist fascist. Mussolini, I think, was an atheist. Quite rare. To be a communist, a Stalinist, it's almost a necessity to be an atheist. There are as many choices as you like. All we say is there's no supernatural dimension. There's no rescue coming to us from the unseen. There's no such thing as salvation. And we are as alone as other species are in this struggle. Sorry, looking at the clock and realizing I've run it out. Can I just then have you view that as a prod to the question period? I'd be very grateful if you'd be that generous. Thank you.